Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I'm creating a card for the Art Impressions design team, and we're going to be creating this adorable little side step card. I'm going to be giving you all the instructions and dimensions to create this card for yourself. So the first set of stamps I'll show you is this beautiful holiday mansion set. This has the coordinating dies, and you get the house, some shutters, and a little sentiment there as well. And then this is a coordinating holiday mansion garden set. And we're going to be using quite a few of the little pieces from this set. We're also going to be using this beautiful Bible journaling set. You get two of these beautiful florals, and this is a blossom border set. Now to do our stamping today, we're going to be using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. I've placed that in my MISTI, and we're going to stamp all of these images, a couple more of the shutters, and a few more of those little potted plants. I'm going to be using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a permanent black ink, to do my stamping. And again, I'm going to stamp a few more of these items. Now using deep green, light green, yellow, and orange, these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. I'm starting with that lighter color, adding the orange, and then pulling it out towards the edges. You do want to make sure you clean off your pen before you get started, and if you're changing colors. And to do that, you just scribble it on some scrap paper until it goes clear. I'm not going to worry about the centers on these flowers because we're going to be adding some Nouveau drops to those a little bit later on. For the leaves, I did the same thing, starting with that lighter color green, adding a little bit of the darker color down towards the base of the leaf, and then pulling out towards the edges. And then on this leaf, I'm going to add just a little touch of yellow, just to brighten up the tips of the leaves a little bit. So with cobalt blue, sugared almond pink, orange, and light blue, I'm going to color in my little birds. I'm starting off with the lighter shade of blue. I added a little pink to the cheeks, adding the darker blue, and then just pulling in towards the face and the little tummy area there. Now with light brown, sugared almond pink, wine red, green, and light green, I'm going to go ahead and color in this little potted plant. So I'm adding the lighter brown first, then a little bit of the darker brown just around the edges and up under those flowers. And then I'm going to pull that all in towards the center, just keeping that center area the lightest. For the flowers, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the little orange and yellow flowers. I'm adding the light color first, a little bit of that darker pink, and then pulling it out towards the tips. And if you get too much ink, again, I'm just scribbling that excess ink off onto the scrap paper there. And adding the same thing with the leaves here with the green and the light green and the dark green. You could also use a water brush here if you prefer. You just want to make sure that you don't have too much water because these images are so small. So with dark gray and light gray, I'm going to be coloring the little watering can, and I'm going to use the same technique. I'm also going to use those same two colors to do the shovel here and also on the wheelbarrow as well. Now with oatmeal and dark oatmeal, I'm going to finish coloring in the little shovel here. Just adding a little bit of that darker color to the both ends there, and then just pulling it in towards the center. I'm going to use those same two colors to do the birdhouses. And I really didn't need to do the bottom of the birdhouses there because those in the end do end up getting covered. So I really just needed to do the base there. Now with deep green and light green, I'm going to do my wheelbarrow. Now I want to add a little shadowing on the inside of the wheelbarrow here. And then I'm just going to pull that down. And I definitely continued removing ink here because it just seemed like it was a little too dark. And I wanted to have that highlight right across the back of the wheelbarrow there. So I just kept removing ink till I got the shade that I wanted. Now I'm going to grab the black and I'm going to do the tires. I'm just adding color to two sides of the wheel. And then I'm going to pull it around to the edges. And I know I always say, but the black goes a long way. A little bit of the black goes a long way. So you don't want to add too much on the tips here, just a little tiny bit, and then pull it down on the handles. Now with sugared almond pink and wine red, I'm going to do this little birdhouse here. I'm just placing some scrap paper down just because my hand was resting on some of the other images I had already colored in, and I didn't want those to get smeared at all. And then with the blue-gray, I'm going to do that other birdhouse. I did end up coming in with a little touch of the black in the openings on the birdhouses, just to add a little bit more of a shadow there. And you can see that there. Now for the shutters, I'm going to take the light gray, and I'm not going to be fussy at all. I just want to add a little bit of a shadow here. So I just kind of went right along the lines of the shutters there. And then I just kind of blended it all out just to get, again, just to give it a little bit of a shadow there. Now with dark gray, light gray, and blue gray, I'm going to color in the house. So I'm using the light gray and the dark gray to do the roof. And I'm just tucking a little bit of color of the darker color up under the scallops on the roof and then pulling those down. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side of the roof there, and also for the little topper above the door. And then I'm using those same two colors to do the handles on the door and on the little handle on the window above that. Now I do end up coloring this little area here, these little window toppers, but later on you'll see that I decided to pop those up. So I'll show you a little bit later where I re-stamped this image again, and then I cut out those pieces so that I could pop them up and give the house a little bit more dimension. But this lower part of the window I did still color in. And again, very quickly. Not a lot of fussing here, just adding a little tiny bit of a shadow here. Now for the house, I started off with the blue-gray and just used my blender to blend that color in. But as I went along, I found it was easier to add a little bit of the blender first and then pull those colors in. So you'll see here that I'm adding a little bit of the blender, just a little bit there, then adding the blue-gray and then pulling it in. So if you find that your blending is a little bit more difficult, especially when you're doing a larger area like this. Sometimes it's easier to lay a little bit of that blender color down first, and then, or if you're using a water brush, lay a little bit of water down first and then pull that color in. I'm just going to add a little shadow just part way up the front here because that's going to be my front door as well. And then I'll continue shadowing this. And wait till you'll see the little dies that we're going to be using to cut out the windows and doors. It's just so cute. It's so interactive. I just think there's so many possibilities with this. And I will be doing another card using this holiday mansion in a totally different way coming up in August as well. So keep an eye out for that video too. So again, that little area above the door, I did redo and popped it up. So you can keep this flat if you want to. And this is the coloring that I used. Or you can do some added dimension. So here you can see all of my coloring up close. So now I want to add my coordinating dies. I'm going to just tape those down with a little bit of purple tape. I did cut those down to size so they would fit in my little Sizzix Sidekick machine, and I'm going to run all of those through. Now I have all my shutters ready, and now I'm going to cut the openings out of this little mansion. And you can see all these dies just fit right in place here. I'm also going to tape those down with a little bit of purple tape, just taking a little time to make sure I line these up properly. And I'm running those through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. I'm putting a little scrap paper down just because I had already done all of my coloring and I just didn't want anything to get smudged. Now I'm going to trim this right around the black lines here all the way around. And I'm also going to cut off that chimney. So I continued to cut that out, and you can see that there. And then just to finish this off, I'm taking a black pen and I'm just going to go all around the edges of it. Now here's where you'll see I recolored the roof line and the little peaks above the windows and the door there. I'm going to do the black edging on these as well just to finish those off. And I'm going to set those aside for now. And I've got all my other little pieces die cut there. Now I'm taking a piece of yellow cardstock, a little bit bigger than the house, because I want to put a sentiment inside that front door there. So I'm using the sentiment from the Holiday Mansion set, and I'm going to go ahead and figure out exactly where I need that to be. So I'm placing that stamped image down. Then once I determine where that sentiment goes, I can go ahead and remove the house, ink that up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and stamp my sentiment. Using Gina K Connect Glue, I'm going to glue this down. And I can also glue that little door above the front door there as well. But I don't want to glue down the front door because that's where my sentiment is. So I want to put glue all around that area. So I'm going to attach this to the yellow cardstock. And you can see that I cut it a little bit larger, and now I'm going to go ahead and trim that excess away. Now for these blossom borders, I'm just going to use a detail scissor and go all the way around these, just leaving a little tiny bit of a border all the way around. And you can see that up close. Now I've got a piece of paper here that measures 5.5 by 8.5. And to do our side step card, we're going to line this up at the 2 1/4 inch mark here. I'm using my Fiskars cutter to do this. And then I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to cut. I'm lining it up at the 2 1/4 inch mark. And I'm going to cut all the way up to 7 1/4 inches. Now I'm placing it in my scoreboard, and I'm taking that narrower side. That's the 2 1/4 inch side, and I'm going to score at the 4 1/4 inch mark. Now you can see here I want to make other scores down at the bottom there, but it's kind of hard to figure out where those line up. So I'm going to flip the paper over, and then I'm going to score at 2 1/4 inches just up to that cut line, not down below. I'm going to score again at 4 1/4 inches, again just to the cut line, then at 5 1/2, at 6 1/2, and at 7 1/4. So now that I have all of those score lines and cut lines done, I'm going to go ahead and my first fold on the narrow 2 1/4 inch side, I'm going to fold towards me. Then on the opposite side, I'm going to fold that 4 1/4 inch line away from me, and then just create a fan fold here. So all of those pieces will just kind of fall into place, and then I'm going to press all of that out with my bone folder. And I'll show you that again here in a second, but I just want to press everything out, even underneath there. I am using a 100-pound cardstock, so I want to make sure I press it nice and flat. So let me show you this again. I'm going to lay this out flat. So you'll see that left side comes towards me, and the right side at 4 1/4 inches goes away from me. And then once I have that, everything folds into place here, just like a fan fold. So you can see that from the side as well. So now that we have that all set, I'm going to lay that out flat again, and I want to add some color down at the bottom. I'm using Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. These are my Distress Oxide inks. I'm taking my 1 1/2 inch purple tape, and I'm just going to mask off this lower section here. I'm going to add some grass, and my little holiday mansion is going to sit right there down towards the bottom. So I just need a little color at the bottom there. I'm starting off with the Twisted Citron, and I'm just going to add a nice even coating of that all the way around here. And then I'm going to add some of the Mowed Lawn just to add a little shadow down at the bottom. I'll go back to the Twisted Citron without adding any extra ink to that, and I'll just blend those two together. Now I can remove my purple tape, and now I want to do those two sections there. So I'm cleaning off the purple tape and my glass mat as well, and now I'm going to mask off this area. So I want to do this little section here with the sky. So I'm going to put plenty of tape here just to make sure I don't get ink anywhere that I don't want it to be. And make sure that it stays still while I'm doing my inking. I'm going to grab the tumbled glass and the chipped sapphire. And I'm going to go ahead and add the tumbled glass first, and then a little bit of the chipped sapphire down towards the bottom of this section. And then again, without re-inking the tumbled glass, I'm going to blend those two together. Now I'm going to go ahead and move my tape and do that top section. So I went ahead and did that off camera, and now you can see that we have the grassy area and the sky. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach that little roof line, and I decided to just add that with a little bit of glue. I'm using my Connect glue from Gina K, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that. I'm just gluing that down, and that'll add a little bit of dimension there. But for these other pieces, I'm going to pop them up using some Scotch foam mounting tape. And that'll pop these shutters up, and it really makes a lot of difference. And then popping up the little arches over each of the window areas and over the door just adds a lot of dimension here. So you can skip that part if you want, but I thought it made the card a little bit more interesting. And you can see that up close there. Now I also added a little foam mounting tape to one of my birds, and I'm going to pop that into place. and also one of the potted plants. And I'm centering it on that window there. So you can see that I created this sidestep card to fit this holiday mansion. So those measurements that I gave you are to fit exactly this holiday mansion. And I cut the chimney off so that this would fit right along that top edge. So you want to line it up with the top of your card and press that into place. And you can see that it's a perfect fit there on that panel. Now, closing my card, I'm going to cut away that excess white cardstock that you see along the roof line and just trim that away. And you can see that I did both sides there. So now I'm just going to lay this flat while I figure out where I want all my little pieces to be. And you can see there's a little slit in this wheelbarrow. So I'm going to go ahead and tuck one of those potted plants in there. I'm just going to cut away the bottom of the planter so it doesn't show. And I'm going to slide that right into place. And I'm adding another little potted plant to the right side of the door. And I'm going to pop that up with a little bit of the foam tape. Now I'm just laying out the scene here. I'm going to make sure I put glue just towards the bottom of this little shovel. I don't want it up towards the top because that is hanging over that top edge there. I'm going to glue down the wheelbarrow. And then I'm popping up the little watering can. But you'll see here in a minute, I'm going to add some flowers under there. Now I want to add this beautiful floral border. So I'm going to tuck that on that back panel. I'm just trying to figure out about how long I want that to be. I'm again going to add glue all around the back of this and then attach that. Now for any areas that are sticking up over the edge there, you don't want to apply glue there. So be careful with how much glue you add. I'm using my bone folder just to press that into place. And again, just checking to make sure that glue isn't going to stick to that back panel. Now you can see here that I'm going to cut away a little bit of the bird houses. So I didn't need that bottom section. And then I'm going to tuck those in behind those flowers. I'm going to pop up that little bird that's in flight. And then with that extra piece that I cut off, I decided to add a little bit to the top of the mansion here. I'm going to cut a little bit more off of that. I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape. And that just brings a little bit more of that yellow florally color your eye over to the left-hand side of the card here a little bit. And you can see how it fits perfectly in that area. So now with this floral border, I'm going to cut off some excess from this as well. I'm going to glue that one in place. And again, watching for the top there. I don't want any glue on the top of those flowers. The pieces that are hanging over. And then I had that little bit of leftover from this one as well. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to tuck that in behind my watering can there. So I just kind of lifted that a little bit. And I'm going to slide that right in behind there. Add a little bit more glue to that. Once I did that, I decided I needed that other little bird. So I went ahead and stamped and die cut that little bird there. And I'm going to pop that one up, sitting on that little branch of flowers. So now the last thing I want to do is add a little bit of the Nouveau Crystal Drops in the gloss white. And I'm going to add that to the centers of all of my little flowers here. And that's just going to add a little bit more dimension. So I let everything sit and dry. And I'll give you a closer look of this card. And you can see that cute little sentiment inside the front door. I just love this. I think this would make a great little gift for somebody. I mean, it makes a cute little decorative element. And you could sign right on the back of the card as well, or put another sentiment back there if you want to. There's plenty of room back here to do any of your signing or write a little note. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.